Hi, welcome to another video. In this video we are going to solve longest consecutive sequence problem from the Leetcode. In this problem they will give a list and we need to return what is the longest consecutive sequence that we can form out of these numbers. Consider this first example. Given numbers are 100, 4, 200, 1, 3 and 2. So if we observe these numbers, there are 4 consecutive numbers, that is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the answer is 4. And if you consider this example, given numbers are 0, 3, 7, 2, 5, 8, 4, 6, 0, 1. Here what are all the consecutive numbers? Let us write that for second example. We have 0 and then we have 1 and we also have 2 and we have 3, 4 and 5, 6, 7 and 8. So this is the longest consecutive sequence that we can get from this nums. If you are not understanding this problem, I will explain it here. 0 is present in here and here, and next 1 is present here and 2 is present here, and similarly we need to check what is the longest consecutive sequence that we get from these numbers. Approach for this problem is very simple. One way to do it is if we don't have this restriction. Here in the problem statement they have mentioned that you must write an algorithm that runs in O of n time. If we don't have this restriction, what we can do is we can easily sort. Initially we can sort these numbers and then we can check the longest consecutive numbers. This is one approach, but in order to write an algorithm at O of n runtime complexity, we can make use of set data structure. Initially our set will be empty. I will explain along with the code. So initially we can say we need to get what are all the unique numbers which are present at nums. So even though in the second example, even though 0 is repeated twice, we consider it only once. So repeated numbers does not matter. Only thing is we have to check what is the longest consecutive sequence that we can get out of all these numbers. So what we can do is we can put all these numbers inside a unique set. So unique nums will be set of nums. What this will do is this will put all the numbers into this set. It will take these nums and it will convert into a set of unique numbers. Then we can start going through this numbers array for num in nums. What we can do is we can check, instead of going through again, if our if num minus 1 not in unique nums. If this is the case, then we can try to check whether our num plus 1, num plus 2, num plus 3 is present in the unique numbers or not. We are checking this condition because we want to avoid so many repeated calculations. Once we write the complete solution, you will understand like why we are checking this condition as well, in order to avoid so many repeated calculations. So once we are at a number, then we can check. So currently we have longest consecutive sequence. Let us declare a variable longest sequence, longest consecutive sequence. Let us initialize it to 0. So then we can check current sequence length. Current sequence length is 1 because we are considering at least one number now. As of now we are at a particular number and we are trying to start with for that number. Current sequence length is 1, and then we can check while num plus current sequence length is in unique nums. If this is the case, then we got to know that, let us say this starts with 1 and we already have num, and now we know that num plus 1 is also present. That means we have to increment the current sequence length. Next time it will check, it will be incremented. Instead of 1 it will become 2, and now then we will check whether num plus 2 is present in the unique nums. This is the approach. Then we will get the possible current sequence length starting from this number. So after doing this, then we have to update the longest consecutive sequence length, that is longest consecutive sequence will be equal to max of previous value of longest consecutive sequence and the current sequence length. So after doing all these things, we will have a longest consecutive sequence length. We just have to return that thing. Return longest consecutive sequence length. So why we are checking this condition? This condition is important because we don't do any repeated calculations. Let us say we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in our nums, and then once we do it for 1, we will check whether, while checking for 1, we will check whether 2 is present, whether 3 is present, or something like that. If we don't check this condition, when we come to 2, we will start again these things. This will result in a lot of repeated calculations. So in order to avoid that, we are checking whether num minus 1 is not present. Anyway, when we start from num, we will check for all those consecutive numbers. So this is the approach behind solving this problem. Let us submit this solution and check whether it passes the initial test cases. Yes, as you can see here, this solution is passing the initial test cases. Before submitting the solution, let us discuss about time and space complexity. For time complexity, anyway, even before starting writing solution for this problem, we were aware that we have to write in O of n time. So here we will go through array once to insert all these numbers into set, and then we will just check whether our nums are present or not by going through again. So here our time complexity is O of n plus n, which will become 2n, and if we don't write constant along constants, so instead of 2n we can write n. So for space complexity, we are using a set to store all the numbers. So our space complexity is also O of n. So we have a linear time complexity and linear space complexity. Let us submit this solution and check whether it passes all the test cases. Yes, as you can see here, this solution is passing all the test cases. If you are interested in learning more about other data structures and algorithm related problems, you can check out other videos from my channel. Thanks for watching this video.